Ethan and Isabella were inseparable. Growing up in the orphanage, they spent every moment together, sharing laughter, secrets, and dreams. From the first time they met, a connection formed that was deeper than friendship, as if they had always known each other. Ethan often told Isabella, his voice full of sincerity and determination, "I'll always protect you." Those words became a promise, one that neither of them could fully understand at such a young age, but that would echo throughout their lives. Every game they played in the courtyard, every bedtime story whispered in the quiet dormitory, only strengthened the invisible bond between them. Despite the simplicity of their life at the orphanage, every day held its challenges. The children had to face rules, schedules, and sometimes the loneliness of being without a family. Yet, Ethan and Isabella always found comfort in each other's presence. He would shield her from bullies, and she would cheer him on during the small competitions they held with other children. The orphanage walls witnessed their laughter, their small arguments, and their constant companionship, forming a foundation of trust and devotion that neither time nor circumstance could easily break. Then came the day that would change everything. A wealthy couple visited the orphanage, looking to adopt a child, and their attention fell on Ethan. He was hesitant, his heart tied to Isabella, refusing to leave the only friend who had ever felt like family. When the adoption papers were signed, Ethan's protests fell on deaf ears. Isabella, seeing the car that would take Ethan away, ran after it, calling his name. In a split second, a speeding car hit her, and everything went dark. She lost her memory that day, and Ethan was taken away, never to see her again, at least not for many years. Despite the tragedy, Ethan never forgot Isabella. Her face, her laughter, and the promise he made to always protect her were etched into his memory. Though separated by distance and circumstances, the bond between them endured, silent but unbroken. Every decision, every achievement, and every challenge he faced would be shaped by the longing to one day see her again. Little did they know, fate had not finished their story. Years passed, and life took Ethan and Isabella on very different paths. Ethan grew up in luxury, surrounded by wealth and opportunities that the couple who adopted him could provide. He excelled in school, sports, and every activity he touched, becoming a young man admired for his skill, charm, and determination. Yet, despite all the privileges and attention, his heart always ached for Isabella, the friend he had left behind. The promise he had made as a child, the vow to protect her, remained his guiding principle, silently influencing every choice he made. Meanwhile, Isabella struggled with a gap in her memory that haunted her life. The accident had erased the years she had shared with Ethan, leaving a blank space where memories of their childhood connection should have been. She adapted to life slowly, trying to fill the void with school, friends, and hobbies. But sometimes, she felt a strange sense of longing, as if someone important had been lost from her life. Despite not knowing why, she often found herself drawn to familiar feelings, fleeting moments of recognition that she could not explain. It was as though her heart remembered what her mind could not. Though separated, fate had its own plan. Neither Ethan nor Isabella knew that the threads of their past would one day pull them back together. In his mind, Ethan replayed the promise he had made countless times. "I will always protect you." Every achievement, every accolade, every match played on the football field was imbued with that silent vow. He had no way of knowing how destiny would unfold, but he held on to the certainty that one day, their paths would cross again. And when that day came, neither of them would be the same as they had been in that orphanage long ago. And yet, the bond that had been formed in childhood would remain unshakable. The day finally arrived, when fate intervened in the lives of Ethan and Isabella. They were both around 20 years old, each living very different lives, yet destiny had orchestrated a meeting neither could anticipate. Ethan had become a star on the college football team, admired by fans and feared by opponents for his skill and intensity on the field. Isabella, on the other hand, had found a place as the leader of the cheerleading squad at the same university, radiating confidence and charm. The universe seemed to have placed them in the same arena, unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. First encounter after so many years was electric, though Isabella did not recognize Ethan at first. She noticed a strong, protective presence and felt a strange familiarity that made her heart skip a beat. At that very moment, another player, her boyfriend from the opposing team, acted arrogantly and cruelly toward her. Ethan, witnessing the confrontation, could not stand by. With determination and force, he intervened, standing between Isabella and the rude player, making it clear that he would not allow anyone to hurt her. The crowd watched, unaware that this was more than just a defense in a sports game. It was the manifestation of a promise made long ago. Though Isabella's memory of their childhood was lost due to the accident, the emotions stirred by Ethan's actions ignited something deep within her. There was a sense of recognition, a strange and inexplicable connection, as if her soul remembered what her mind could not. For Ethan, every glance, every reaction, every heartbeat reminded him of the vow he had made as a boy, to always protect Isabella. And so, he dedicated himself to ensuring that no one could ever harm her, both physically and emotionally. As the season progressed, their interactions grew. And though the past was blurred for Isabella, the bond Ethan felt was unwavering. Little did they know that this reunion would set the stage for a series of challenges, memories, and revelations that would ultimately determine whether love, nurtured in childhood and tested by time, could truly survive. As days turned into weeks, Ethan continued to watch over Isabella, making sure no one could hurt her again. Every interaction, even the briefest, carried a sense of familiarity for her, though she couldn't place why. There were fleeting moments when she felt she had known him forever. Unexplainable pull in her chest, a shiver that ran through her when their eyes met. For Ethan, these moments were bittersweet. He remembered everything: the laughter, the games, the promises of their childhood, while Isabella struggled to grasp a shadow of memories that her mind had lost. At practice, at games, and during cheerleading events, Ethan made it his mission to remain near her. Any hint of disrespect or aggression from others was met with his silent but unmistakable presence. Isabella noticed, puzzled by the way he seemed to anticipate danger and defend her. Yet she couldn't explain the sudden trust she felt. Her heart reacted instinctively, even though her mind was clouded by forgotten years. Friends began to notice the unusual closeness between them, whispering about the tension and the invisible bond that seemed to exist. Ethan's protective instincts, once rooted in a childhood promise, now found expression in a young man's determination to shield Isabella from any emotional or physical harm. The more they interacted, the stronger the inexplicable connection grew. Isabella began to experience flashes of memories, an echo of a laughter shared, a phrase whispered in the orphanage, or the way he always seemed to know when she needed protection. Ethan, on the other hand, was reminded that some promises transcend time and distance. No matter the years apart, the bond they had formed in childhood remained unbroken. This rekindling of emotions, combined with the intensity of their everyday interactions, marked the beginning of a slow but steady journey toward the truth that love, even when hidden by memory, could never be extinguished. As the football season intensified, so did the challenges surrounding Ethan and Isabella. While Ethan remained vigilant, protecting her from harm, Isabella continued to navigate her complicated feelings. She was still involved with her boyfriend from the opposing team, a young man whose arrogance and harsh words often hurt her emotionally. Ethan could no longer ignore the situation. He knew that some lessons from childhood had to be defended in the present. His protective nature, once nurtured in the orphanage, now took on a more adult intensity, driven by a promise made long ago, and a love that had never faded. The tension between the two men was palpable. On the field and in the stadium stands, Ethan observed every interaction, every dismissive comment, and every subtle attempt to belittle Isabella. Each insult or careless action from her boyfriend sparked an instinctive reaction in Ethan, intervened when necessary, his presence commanding attention and respect. His gaze always fixed on Isabella to ensure she was safe. Isabella, caught in the middle of these conflicts, felt a strange mix of fear, curiosity, and attraction. There was something in Ethan's unwavering attention that felt familiar, comforting, and strangely necessary, even though her mind could not place why. Off the field, the emotional weight of these tensions continued to grow. Friends and teammates began noticing the bond forming between Ethan and Isabella, creating whispers and gossip. Yet, despite the external pressures, the young couple's connection only strengthened. Ethan's silent promise of protection transformed into a daily commitment, a shield against a world that sometimes seemed eager to interfere in their lives. For Isabella, the feelings she could not fully understand were becoming undeniable, a pull toward someone who seemed to know her better than she knew herself. Each interaction, each protective gesture, brought them closer to the moment when the past and present would finally collide, and Isabella would be confronted with memories she had long forgotten. Days turned into weeks, and the invisible threads connecting Ethan and Isabella grew stronger. Each encounter, each glance, seemed charged with an unspoken understanding. Isabella could not explain why she felt so safe, so seen, and so drawn to Ethan, but the sensations were undeniable. Every time he was near, her heart raced, her thoughts became muddled, and a sense of calm washed over her, as if she had always known him. For Ethan, every interaction was a reminder of the promise he had made as a child, to always protect Isabella, no matter what the years had taken from them. Outside the stadium, life continued its rhythm, but every moment for Ethan revolved around Isabella. He learned her habits, her routines, and even the subtle changes in her mood. It was more than love. It was a devotion rooted in years of shared experiences, a connection that had survived accidents, memory loss, and separation. Isabella, meanwhile, began to sense a history she couldn't remember. Flashes of a smaller hand in hers, laughter echoing down hallways, or the comforting words of someone she couldn't place, haunted her in moments of quiet. These glimpses stirred emotions that confused her, leaving her longing for something just beyond her grasp. Their lives, intertwined, in ways neither fully understood, became a delicate dance of proximity and restraint. Friends noticed the subtle moments, a hand brushing, a glance held too long, a word spoken with more care than necessary. The tension grew, but so did the unspoken bond, solidifying a connection that transcended time and memory. Each moment spent together brought Isabella closer to uncovering the past and Ethan closer to fulfilling the promise that had guided him through every stage of his life. In the shadows of games, cheer routines, and daily life, an unbreakable force was forming, one that neither distance, accident, nor circumstance could ever diminish. As Ethan and Isabella spent more time together, subtle shifts began to appear in her relationship with her boyfriend. The young man from the opposing team, arrogant and increasingly cruel, could sense the connection developing between Isabella and Ethan. His insults became sharper, his attempts to dominate more aggressive. Yet Isabella found herself unconsciously drawn to Ethan's presence, to the calm strength he radiated, and the protective energy that seemed to follow him wherever he went. Every time Ethan stepped in to shield her, a spark of realization flickered in her chest, though she still could not remember why she felt such deep trust and admiration. Ethan noticed the growing tension and understood the stakes. This was no longer just about protecting Isabella physically. He had to guard her heart and spirit as well. The young man's behavior crossed boundaries repeatedly, and Ethan's patience was tested at every turn. He found himself confronting him both on and off the field, making it clear that anyone who tried to harm Isabella, even emotionally, would not succeed. Isabella observed these confrontations, torn between loyalty, confusion, and an inexplicable attraction to Ethan. It was as if her soul recognized something she had long forgotten. Yet her mind struggled to catch up. The tension reached a crescendo during one practice session. Isabella's boyfriend publicly humiliated her in front of teammates, mocking her cheerleading routines and dismissing her opinions. Ethan, watching from the sidelines, felt a surge of protective fury, unlike anything he had experienced before. He stepped forward, confronting the young man with a controlled but undeniable force. And for the first time in years, Isabella's pulse quickened in recognition, not of memory, but of instinct. She felt safe. She felt known. And though she could not recall the promises of childhood, the unspoken bond between her and Ethan began to assert itself, stronger than ever, laying the foundation for the revelations that were yet to come. Isabella began experiencing moments she couldn't explain, flashes of memory that felt like whispers from the past, a laugh that seemed familiar, a comforting presence she couldn't identify, and fleeting glimpses of shared childhood games haunted her daily life. Each fragment left her puzzled, yet oddly at peace, as if a part of her had always known Ethan. She struggled to reconcile these feelings with the life she had built in the years since the accident, especially with her boyfriend, whose behavior increasingly clashed with the instincts guiding her toward Ethan. Ethan, acutely aware of Isabella's confusion, took care to remain a steady presence. He never forced her to remember or rush her emotions. Instead, he allowed the bond to strengthen, naturally, knowing that the time for revelation would come. Every protective gesture, every shared laugh, every quiet conversation during cheer practice or football games became a silent reminder of the connection they had once shared. For Ethan, these moments reaffirmed the childhood promise he had made, to protect Isabella no matter the cost. The tension between the past and present became more pronounced during a particularly chaotic game. Isabella's boyfriend, unable to hide his jealousy and resentment, confronted Ethan aggressively. But Ethan's calm authority and unyielding commitment to Isabella's safety diffused the situation. Isabella, witnessing this, felt an emotional pull she could not name. She realized that despite not remembering the accident or the promises made in their youth, Ethan's presence elicited a deep sense of trust, warmth, and recognition. Every encounter, every small gesture, was slowly piecing together the puzzle of their shared history, preparing her for the eventual moment when the full memory of their childhood bond would finally return. As the weeks passed, Ethan and Isabella found themselves spending more time together, outside the confines of the football field and cheerleading routines. Study sessions, casual walks around campus, and quiet moments in the sun became the subtle threads weaving their lives closer together. Isabella still struggled with her fragmented memories, but each encounter with Ethan left her heart racing, her mind filled with an unexplainable warmth and familiarity. She began to notice how naturally he anticipated her needs, how his presence alone made her feel safe and seen in a way no one else could achieve. Ethan, meanwhile, felt a renewed sense of purpose. Protecting Isabella was no longer a silent vow made in childhood. It had become a living, breathing commitment. Every laugh he shared with her, every reassuring word, and every small act of kindness reminded him why he had never stopped caring. He was determined that no one, not even her current boyfriend, could undermine the bond they shared. His actions were gentle but firm, showing care without overstepping, love without pressure. Slowly, Isabella's instincts began guiding her closer to him, even as the memories of their past remained out of reach. The closeness they experienced stirred both joy and tension. Friends began to notice the subtle exchanges, the lingering glances, the quiet smiles, the way Ethan always seemed to know when Isabella needed support. Rumors quietly circulated, but neither Ethan nor Isabella paid attention. Their focus was on each other, on the growing connection that neither could fully explain but both deeply felt. It was becoming clear that their bond went beyond friendship or attraction. It was a love seeded in childhood, nurtured by circumstance, and tested by time. Every shared moment laid the foundation for a revelation neither had yet anticipated, that true love, even lost and forgotten, can find its way back. As Ethan and Isabella grew closer, external pressures began to mount. Isabella's boyfriend became increasingly possessive. Sensing the growing connection between her and Ethan, his arrogance and harsh behavior intensified, attempting to assert control and diminish Ethan's influence. But Isabella, despite her confusion over her feelings, began noticing the stark contrast between the two men. Ethan's gentle strength, his protective instincts, and his unwavering support made her question the stability of her current relationship. Every encounter with Ethan reinforced the strange yet undeniable sense of recognition. She felt a pull she could neither ignore nor fully understand. Ethan, determined to honor the childhood promise he had made, continued to protect Isabella, emotionally and physically. He refused to engage in petty arguments or fights, focusing instead on providing comfort, guidance, and reassurance. His calm yet firm presence gradually built trust, allowing Isabella to lean on him without fear. Friends and teammates began noticing the subtle dynamics at play, whispering about the bond forming between them. Meanwhile, Isabella experienced moments of clarity, brief flashes of memory, the echo of a promise, or the feeling of having always known him. These fragments unsettled her, yet also strengthened the invisible threads, tying her heart to Ethan. Tensions reached a boiling point during one intense football match. Her boyfriend attempted to humiliate Isabella publicly, mocking her cheerleading routine and belittling her in front of the crowd. Ethan, refusing to stand by, stepped in decisively, shielding her from further harm. The crowd watched, unaware that this was more than just a protective gesture, was the fulfillment of a vow made years ago. A childhood promise brought to life through unwavering devotion. Isabella felt her heart stir with recognition, though her mind had yet to piece together the full truth. Every interaction, every protective act, drew them closer, setting the stage for a revelation that would change everything. The growing closeness between Ethan and Isabella began to create conflicts in her life. Friends and teammates noticed the tension and whispered about the connection they shared, while her boyfriend's possessiveness escalated. Every time he confronted Ethan or tried to control Isabella, she felt a rising frustration and confusion she couldn't explain. Her heart, drawn to Ethan in ways she didn't fully understand, began questioning her loyalty and the decisions she had made in the past. The more she tried to rationalize her feelings, the more impossible it seemed to ignore the bond she instinctively felt with him. Ethan, aware of the challenges, chose patience over aggression. He understood that Isabella needed to navigate her emotions and discover the truth at her own pace. Every gesture of protection, every small act of kindness. Every supportive word was carefully measured to reinforce trust without overwhelming her. Meanwhile, the world around them seemed determined to interfere. Friends speculated. Her boyfriend's anger grew, and the pressures of school, sports, and social life made each interaction charged with tension. Yet, despite the obstacles, the bond between Ethan and Isabella deepened. During a particularly heated confrontation at the stadium, Isabella's boyfriend crossed a line, publicly humiliating her and attempting to provoke Ethan into a fight. Ethan's calm but firm response, protecting Isabella without escalating the situation, impressed those watching. Isabella felt a surge of gratitude and recognition, though she could not place it fully. The fragments of memory began to intensify, of laughter, shared secrets, and childhood promises on the invisible threads of their bond strengthened. It became increasingly clear that no external force could sever the connection Ethan and Isabella shared, and that the journey to uncover the past was only beginning. Isabella began noticing subtle patterns that seemed familiar but elusive. A laugh, a gesture, or the way Ethan instinctively knew when she needed support, triggered fleeting memories she couldn't fully grasp. Each fragment left her curious, unsettled, yet strangely comforted. She sensed a bond that had been formed long before, one she couldn't explain, but felt deep in her heart. The confusion only made her emotions stronger, creating an undeniable pull toward Ethan that she could no longer ignore. Despite the complications of her current relationship, Ethan, ever vigilant, recognized these moments as signs that the past was slowly resurfacing. He was careful not to pressure Isabella, instead allowing the memories to emerge naturally. Every protective act, every shared laugh, every quiet conversation was a reminder of the vow he had made as a child to always protect her. The years apart had done nothing to diminish his feelings. If anything, they had intensified, sharpening his determination to ensure Isabella's safety and happiness. The tension in their lives increased as Isabella's glimpses of the past became more vivid. She found herself questioning old attachments and new emotions alike. Friends began to notice the growing intensity between her and Ethan, while her boyfriend's arrogance and cruelty only pushed her closer to the man who instinctively seemed to know her better than anyone else. Each encounter was a delicate dance, a slow unraveling of the truth, with Ethan guiding her gently toward the revelations that would ultimately restore her memories and reunite them fully. The fragments of the past were coming together, piece by piece, leading Isabella to the inevitable realization that some connections, no matter how lost or impossible to break. The day of the big championship game arrived, bringing with it heightened emotions and high stakes. The stadium was alive with cheering fans, the sun shining brightly, illuminating every corner of the field. Isabella led her cheer squad with precision, her focus unwavering, but her heart kept drifting to Ethan. Every glance he cast her way, every subtle gesture of protection, stirred something deep inside her, an instinctive recognition she could not yet explain. She felt drawn to him in a way that went beyond friendship or attraction, sensing a history she had long forgotten. Ethan, fully aware of the significance of the day, kept his attention on Isabella, ensuring that no harm would come to her. Her boyfriend from the opposing team, still jealous and reckless, tried repeatedly to intimidate both Ethan and Isabella, but Ethan's presence was a shield she could rely on. The tension between them escalated, creating moments of conflict, yet these same moments revealed the depth of their connection. Isabella began to experience stronger flashes of memory, laughter from a playground, whispered promises, a small hand held in childhood that left her breathless with emotion. The turning point came during a tense moment in the game when Ethan intervened decisively, protecting Isabella from a physical mishap on the field caused by her boyfriend's carelessness. In that instant, Isabella's emotions overwhelmed her, and for a fleeting moment, the past broke through the fog of her memory. She felt the invisible bond she had shared with Ethan as a child, the promise he had made, and the depth of their connection. It was as if time had folded upon itself, and the years of separation vanished in a heartbeat. From that moment, everything began to shift. Their bond became undeniable, their emotions uncontainable, and the path toward love and memory was finally illuminated. After the championship game, the emotional intensity between Ethan and Isabella could no longer be ignored. The fleeting moments of recognition during the match had left Isabella both shaken and exhilarated. Though her memories were still incomplete, she began to feel a deep connection to Ethan that she could no longer rationalize. Every glance, every shared smile, every touch carried weight, stirring emotions that had lain dormant for years. It was as if a part of her past was awakening, refusing to be silenced by time or circumstance. Ethan, sensing the subtle shift in Isabella's awareness, felt hope blossom within him. He continued to support her quietly, but with unwavering dedication. Never pushing, never forcing, yet ensuring she knew she could rely on him. His protective instincts, once guided by a childhood promise, now found expression in the care, patience, and gentleness he offered every day. Friends and teammates began to notice the undeniable chemistry, the magnetic pull that seemed to bind them together, even if the past remained obscured. As Isabella grappled with these new emotions, fragments of memory began surfacing more clearly. She recalled Ethan's face from her childhood, moments of laughter, and the sense of safety he always provided. Her heart ached with longing and confusion, but the connection could no longer be denied. The invisible threads woven years ago had grown stronger, pulling them toward each other, bridging the gap between past and present. The stage was set for the next chapter of their journey, one where love, memory, and destiny would collide in ways neither of them could have anticipated, pushing them closer to the truth and to the reunion their hearts had long awaited. As the bond between Ethan and Isabella deepened, new challenges arose. Her boyfriend, increasingly aware of the connection forming between them, became more controlling and aggressive, attempting to assert dominance and maintain his grip on her heart. Isabella, torn between past attachments and the inexplicable pull toward Ethan, felt her emotions in turmoil. Every interaction with Ethan made her question her previous decisions and forced her to confront feelings she could not yet fully understand. His calm strength, unwavering protection, and gentle guidance highlighted the stark contrast with the harshness and arrogance of her current partner. Ethan knew that love alone would not be enough. Patience and persistence were required. He continued to protect Isabella, both physically and emotionally, without imposing his will, allowing her to discover the truth at her own pace. Every quiet gesture, every shared smile, and every moment spent by her side reinforced the invisible bond that had endured since childhood. Friends and teammates began to notice the intensity growing between them, whispering about the unspoken connection that neither could deny. A pivotal confrontation occurred during a practice session when her boyfriend publicly mocked Isabella, attempting to provoke Ethan into conflict. Ethan's response was measured but firm, shielding her while maintaining dignity and control. Isabella felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and familiarity, as if a long-forgotten truth was brushing against her consciousness. Her fragments of memory became sharper, revealing glimpses of a past promise, of shared laughter and protection. The invisible threads of love, woven years ago, were now pulling them inexorably toward each other, setting the stage for the ultimate revelation of their childhood bond and the true depth of their feelings. The shadows of the past began to stretch over Ethan and Isabella's lives, casting moments of uncertainty and tension. Isabella found herself haunted by fleeting images, memories of laughter, playful games, and the warmth of a presence she couldn't fully place. Though the accident had stolen much of her childhood recollection, these glimpses persisted, pulling her toward Ethan with an invisible force. Every time he was near, her heart raced, and her thoughts became tangled in a web of emotions she could neither name nor resist. Ethan, ever watchful, sensed the awakening within her. He knew that patience was essential. Forcing the past into clarity too quickly could overwhelm Isabella. Every protective gesture, every careful word, every act of unwavering support was a thread weaving them closer together, reminding her subconscious of the bond they had shared since childhood. He became the anchor in her storm of confusion, the constant presence she instinctively trusted even without conscious memory. The tension between them reached its height during a university event where Isabella's boyfriend attempted to assert control, his arrogance clashing sharply with Ethan's calm authority. Witnessing Ethan defend her, Isabella felt an almost visceral recognition, as if a forgotten truth was nudging her mind. The fragments of memory intensified, painting fleeting scenes of their shared past, the orphanage, childhood promises, moments of laughter and protection. Slowly but surely, the veil obscuring her memories began to lift. The past was no longer a distant echo. It was becoming a living, breathing reality that demanded acknowledgement and acceptance, pulling them toward the inevitable reunion and awakening of true love. Isabella began experiencing moments of startling clarity. Small, seemingly insignificant details triggered vivid memories. The curve of Ethan's smile, the sound of his laughter, the way he always seemed to anticipate her needs. Each fragment struck her like a jolt, leaving her heart pounding and her mind reeling. She could no longer ignore the feeling that she had known him far longer than her current life suggested. The pull toward Ethan was undeniable, and the subconscious recognition of their past together became impossible to dismiss. Ethan noticed the subtle shifts in her demeanor and knew that the breakthrough was approaching. He continued to act with gentle vigilance, never forcing her to confront the memories before she was ready, yet ensuring that she felt safe, supported, and cherished. Every protective act, every word of encouragement, and every small gesture became a catalyst for Isabella's awakening. He understood that the bond they had shared since childhood was resurfacing, fragile but resilient, ready to bridge the gap years had created. The tension reached a pivotal point during a practice session when Isabella's boyfriend attempted yet again to humiliate her publicly. Ethan's immediate defense was instinctive, but his calm, controlled response highlighted the stark contrast between him and her boyfriend. Isabella felt a surge of recognition and gratitude, the fragments of her past aligning in a way that made her question everything she thought she knew. Slowly, the memories began to coalesce: faded moments of the orphanage, whispered promises, shared laughter, and the realization dawned. Ethan was the boy who had once vowed to protect her, the one who had never truly left her side. The first glimpse of truth had arrived, setting the stage for the full revelation of their past and the deep, enduring love that had survived every obstacle. Isabella's mind began to clear, the fog of lost years slowly lifting. Flashes of her childhood with Ethan became more vivid. The games in the orphanage courtyard, the whispered promises at bedtime, the small hand he had always held to protect her from harm. Each memory brought a rush of emotion, nostalgia, relief, and an overwhelming sense of recognition. The boy she had once trusted with her life was no longer just a stranger. He was the man who had always been by her side, even when she could not remember him. Ethan watched her transformation with a mixture of hope and awe. He had waited for this moment for years, knowing that patience and unwavering support were the keys to restoring her memories. Every gesture, every word, every shared moment had been carefully guided toward this day. Now, as her memories returned, he felt the weight of their past and the promise he had made so long ago solidifying into the reality of their love. Isabella began to see him not only as a protector, but as the boy who had once been her closest friend, her confidant, and the one who had always cared for her without condition. The reunion of past and present was both emotional and transformative. Isabella's boyfriend, realizing the depth of their connection, could no longer compete. The invisible threads that had held Ethan and Isabella together for years now became tangible, their bond stronger than ever. Every glance, every touch, every whispered word carried the weight of a shared history that could never be erased. The memories rekindled the love that had been dormant for so long, bringing them to the threshold of a future they had once only dreamed of. At last, Ethan and Isabella stood together, fully aware of the past they shared and the unbreakable love that had survived every obstacle. With Isabella's memories returning, the dynamics between her and Ethan transformed completely. The boy who had once promised to protect her was now a man who embodied every bit of that vow. And Isabella felt a flood of emotions she had long suppressed. Gratitude, recognition, and a profound sense of belonging coursed through her, making her heart swell with a love that had been dormant for years. The bond they shared was no longer hidden in fragments of memory, was whole, alive, and undeniable. Ethan, having waited for this moment for years, finally felt the weight of their reunion. Every act of protection, every gentle word, every patient gesture had led to this point. Now, seeing Isabella fully aware of their shared past, he knew that the promise he had made as a child had not only endured, but had grown into a love more profound than he could have imagined. They could finally confront the obstacles that had kept them apart, knowing that nothing, neither time, accident, nor circumstance could break the bond they shared. Her boyfriend, witnessing the undeniable connection, became increasingly irrelevant in the face of their reunion. Isabella and Ethan's love, forged in childhood, tested by separation, and solidified by memory, now became a force too strong to ignore. Their friends and teammates watched as the two of them, once innocent children separated by fate, now stood together as young adults, fully aware of the depth of their connection. The journey of rediscovery, patience, and unwavering devotion had culminated in this moment. Love, once fragmented by tragedy and lost memories, had been reclaimed, proving that true connection, no matter how challenged, could survive on time and trials. With their memories fully restored, Ethan and Isabella faced the world as a united front. The bond that had been forged in childhood and tested by years of separation now became the foundation for their shared future. Every glance, every touch, and every word they exchanged carried the depth of their history. A love that had endured trials and time. Isabella no longer felt confusion or longing. She knew, with absolute certainty, that Ethan had always been her protector, her friend, and the one she was destined to love. Ethan, grateful for the journey that had led them to this moment, vowed to continue honoring his childhood promise. Their families, initially skeptical of the intensity and depth of their connection, began to recognize the authenticity and strength of their love. The challenges of the past, the accident, the separation, the interference of others, had only reinforced the resilience of their bond. As they walked hand in hand, the world around them seemed to acknowledge the power of a love that could withstand anything. A love that was no longer hidden in memory, but fully realized in the present. The stadia, once a place of competition and tension, became a symbol of their journey. It had been the setting of their first reunion, the place where fragments of the past surfaced, and where love had been tested and proven true. Now it stood as a testament to their triumph over adversity. Ethan and Isabella, united by fate and choice, embraced the promise of their future together. They understood that life would continue to present challenges, but nothing could break the connection forged in childhood and solidified through years of unwavering devotion. True love, as they had learned, never fades, it only grows stronger. With time, the final chapter of their journey unfolded with a serenity and joy that Ethan and Isabella had long dreamed of, but never dared to imagine. With memories fully restored and their love undeniable, they stood together, hand in hand, looking toward a future that promised fulfillment, companionship, and unwavering devotion. The trials of the past, the accident, the separation, the misunderstandings, and the years of longing had all led to this moment, where every tear, every moment of doubt, and every challenge had only strengthened the bond between them. Friends, teammates, and family members who had witnessed their journey now celebrated the triumph of love that had endured against all odds. Isabella's heart, once clouded with confusion and fragments of forgotten memories, now overflowed with clarity and passion. She finally recognized Ethan not just as the protector he had always been, but as the person who had been her constant, her confidant, and the keeper of her heart since childhood. Ethan, in turn, felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. The promise he had made years ago had blossomed into a love so profound that no force could shake it. Their past, present, and future had merged into a single, unbreakable thread of devotion. The world around them seemed to reflect their inner harmony. The stadium where they had reunited, the fields where he had protected her, and the spaces they had once shared in childhood became sacred symbols of a love that had survived time, memory loss, and every obstacle life had placed in their path. As they embraced, they knew that life would continue to challenge them, but the foundation of trust, devotion, and unwavering protection they had built would endure forever. Ethan and Isabella had not only reclaimed their love, they had proven that true love, born in innocence, tested by circumstance, and nurtured through years of separation, never fades. It only grows stronger, lasting a lifetime and beyond.